Top M&A Entrepreneurs Podcast today. My guest is Camilo Parra Camilo Andres Parra. Welcome to the show.
Hey, John, how's it going? Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here.
Well, I'm glad to have you here because I want to talk to you about this post you made just recently on Facebook where Epic made me a millionaire.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Well, let's go back and kind of start with this story. You said it happened 3 weeks ago. Is this like the date where it made you a millionaire? But let's go back where this all started. Now, tell me this story.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, technically, where it started is when I joined Epic. I actually went back and I joined back in 2020 or 2021. I went through the whole process. I tried acquiring a company for 6 million. That was the first thing that, after going through a program, the only things that I had was just the knowledge on the program and a bunch of confidence that I could just execute on this. So I went on MicroAcquire, and there was this one company that I saw in the e-commerce space, and they were listing. I don't even remember if it had a price or not. The point is that I reached out to the guy. He said, "Hey, yeah, we have it. It's for 6 million. Would you like to talk about it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I had nowhere near the amount of cash to go and acquire a company for 6 million, but I had all the knowledge from Epic. So I said, worst case scenario, at least I get to practice my lines. At least like I can get something out of this. And over the next 3 to 4 months, I talked to the guy and we became really good friends. I actually flew to Chicago to take a look at the company because it was a play between the e-commerce, like the actual business, and the real estate. And then once it came to how much do you want for it, and the whole deal structures, everything, he was very hard set that he wanted 50% upfront. And the whole one of the
Let me
premises of
ask you a
Epic.
question. Let's rewind just a little bit about who you are. Now, what do you do normally? What do you do in your ordinary world right now?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been in the e-commerce space for about 7 years. So I have an agency right now. The name of the agency is Brain Power, and we help companies. We help companies between 1 and 10 million just scale.
Yeah. And how do you help them do that? You're doing SEO, PPC, what, conversion rate optimization? What do you do? Or all
Yeah,
of the
so we
above?
call it almost all of the above. So we call it full ecosystem control. So we come in and we act as a part-time CMO, if you will. And we have the CMO and we give a team to the CMO for the CMO to be able to execute anything that we need to grow that account, which 90% of the time is Facebook, running ads on Facebook, managing Google and Friends, including YouTube, running the ads there, creating landing pages, doing email management, coming up with offers, coming up with end goals, editing videos for new ads. We basically take a full funnel approach to what we do.
Yeah, and how do those? What makes a good client? That the product have to be could be a trendy product or something they buy quite often, or does it have to be like your top criteria? It's got to have a gross margin because what we're going to do is going to spend money to get this more sales and more profits.
Yeah, definitely. So at its core is product market fit. And, we realized that a starting baseline for product market fit is about $1 million. And if they have product market fit and they have made $1 million, they probably already went through a lot of the hardships of being a company off the ground. They have an idea of what their finances look like and they have a mind for growth. And they're willing to test new things, which is basically perfect for what we do.
So they got to have something like $1 million in revenue or $1 million bottom line?
In revenue.
Oh, okay. And what do you see from these great clients, that make a good client? Are they just tapped out? They don't know what to do next, or they don't have any energy? How do you know, like, this person's got a lot of gas in the tank and he wants to spend money and they can afford your monthly payment? How do you know that?
It is basically on the company. It just comes down to the actual company itself and the nature of the products that they sell. Because if we come in and we look at the website, we look at what they're doing on Facebook ads or on Google ads, we look at what they're doing on email, We look at the margins of the product, the shipping costs, the cost of delivery, and everything that is there. And if we see opportunity and we see that the owner, the CEO that is running the company is very motivated to grow the company, then that's a perfect fit. We're able to spot the gaps that we can fill in with, actual performance media buying on Facebook, following best practices on what is run a Facebook ad account. We understand marketing concepts. What can we do from a direct response perspective? How much do they know about their own finances? Is this a product that has a lifetime value, or do we actually have to be profitable on the first sale? So we look at is 80% the business, including the products, and then 20% the mindset of the owner, how they actually see their own company.
Yeah. And what do you suggest as, hey, you're going to be spending $3K a month or $5K a month, not including our bill? What is that? Is there a threshold there?
It really depends. It really, really, really depends, because it depends on, are they actually spending money already, or have they made their first, and when I say $1 million, it's $1 million in yearly revenue, or are they doing that money on pure organic channels? Like how's the composition of their revenue, of their yearly revenue? And based on that, we can backtrack into a and spend target or a spend goal, that if they want to double the revenue, if they want to make an extra $1 million, okay, let's look at your historical data. How much have you spent in the future? What is the return on spend on that? What can we do to make that more efficient? Because sometimes it's not let's spend more money, but let's make more efficient. Let's squeeze more juice out of your spend dollars to get you going further. And based on that, we can formulate, okay, we probably want to spend 50K a month, 100K a month, 200K a month, depending on their goals and their understanding of how media buying functions.
Yeah. And how long have you been doing this?
7 years.
Yeah. Did you ever propose like a percentage of revenue, or was it just an agency for hire? You go, hey, let's put out these bids and.
Yeah, we only do like a straight flat fee, which is why our business is so successful. Because the ad agencies and agencies in the e-commerce space, or anyone that launches Facebook ads, like in this day and age, Facebook ads running ads is a commodity. Anyone can do it. So the magic doesn't really come from there. And the issue is that agencies over time, for not a particular fault of their own, they sort of became a little greedy on this. So they knew that, hey, if we put $1 here, then we can expect $2, $3, $4 out. Therefore, they started charging customers based on a percentage of ad spend. We do everything on a flat fee because we are very efficient with our costs. So we're not really incentivized to like club you over the head just because we see you doing better than we feel entitled to your revenues or anything like that. So that's one thing that really helps us stand the market. We don't charge percentage of ad spend. We don't charge percentage of revenue. It's your money. Like, you're hiring us to make you money. So it's sort of illogical for me to go back to a company like, hey, you hired me to make you money, but the more money you make, well, the more money I'm gonna charge you. Yeah, because at that point they end up at the same place financially. So, and after 3-4 months, if all the money I'm making, then I'm taking it back. Like, what's the point?
So you're doing this, and what was the impetus to start looking at, getting into acquisitions, acquiring? What were you thinking then? I mean, by the way, let me ask you before that. Now, do you own this by yourself, or is it a group of people that own it, or you own 100%?
For Brain Power, I do have a partner. I have 2 partners in Brain Power.
Yeah. And so what was the impetus behind this? I'm going to start taking these courses, learn more about M&A. Why did you want to do that?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so we tend to have shiny object syndrome. So the moment that Roland came here and said, hey, you can make like you can acquire a company for zero money out of pocket, and it could be a multi-million-dollar company. I'm like, that sounds something that I can do.
Oh, that's a
I can get
good
behind that.
marketing. It's good marketing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna click on it. Tick, 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 click, click. Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's go back to this MicroAcquire guy you had this conversation with. He was insistent that you need to put 3 million down out of the 6 million down. So what happened there?
At that point, is just picking up the phone and make some phone calls, because that's the thing. The whole thing is, it doesn't necessarily have to be your own money. It can be, use other people's money. So
Yeah.
who do I contact? What friends do I have? Can the SBA agree to this? But it always goes back down to, is the seller willing to accept the terms? Um, Ultimately, I couldn't make it happen, so the whole deal just fell apart. It just completely fell apart. So at this point, 1 to 2 years into the knowledge, and I still haven't been able to do anything. But the knowledge keeps growing, and my confidence in it keeps growing, because that was the first time that I had a conversation with an entrepreneur of that caliber. Because I didn't actually mention this.
Well, let
The
me ask
person
you
that
before
was
that. Was that $6 million actually the business actually worth $6 million? Was it the valuation correct, or was it? I got to tell you, I've been on MicroAcquire a lot of times, and many of those people that post on there overvalue their business, way over.
Mhm. 100%. Actually, this was underpriced.
Okay.
And you know how, depending on how you position the company, you can immediately change the valuation of the business. So I was valuing it as an e-commerce company, which they have, depending on the time period in which we are, anywhere between 3 to 5 ish. But the actual nature of the business is something that's called reverse logistics. So all of the products that get sent back, let's say you order something from Amazon, then the person doesn't want the product, it gets sent to Amazon. If that product is sold by a third party person, by another entrepreneur that they just use the Amazon platform, then Amazon has to figure out what to do with those products. This company specifically function on eBay. So what the owner of this company did, and brilliant guy, completely brilliant, he created, and the company is on, it operates on eBay, so it functions a little bit different. He created an algorithm that he knows when a product gets sold, when the product is going to be returned, he buys all of those products and he releases the product again. And he takes a margin. And when you do that for hundreds of thousands of products, then the math starts making a lot of sense. And the thing is that he also owned the warehousing, he owned the technology, because he runs $100 million e-commerce business. So for him to start making, I think he was doing 3 million a year just on complete autopilot. That was a weekend project for him. So when he explained it to me that way, that this is actually a reverse logistics company, and the multiple for a logistics company is anywhere between 4 to 8, I believe. The 6 million, it became very reasonable.
Yeah, let me ask you about that. Just a clarification. Was he buying returned products, kind of like in a pallet, and reselling them on eBay?
Yes. So eBay, there's based on eBay's terms and services. If you sell a product internationally, let's say that the product gets returned, sometimes the product cannot be returned to the owner. Um, and but the owner got still compensated for that. So an eBay cannot release the product on eBay. So eBay has to figure out, what do we do with all of these products that we can't really list on the platform again? Well, let's sell the pallets to whoever is willing to deal with this headache that they had.
Yeah,
And that's where they met the owner that I was dealing with, who
yeah.
was
And
also very deep in the logistics world. So it made a ton of sense for them to do business with
so
this
he
guy.
already ran a $100 million company, some other company, and
Hmm.
this one was just taking up too much time or not making as much money. And He just wanted to get rid of it and make some extra money.
Correct, yeah, because he was actually a serial entrepreneur, and also he was very in depth into the acquisition space, which is why he was so hard pressed to like, hey, the minimum I will take is 50% for this,
Yeah,
because he
did he
acquires
buy
businesses
his
all the
that
time.
$100 million company to grow, and or did he grow
No,
that
he
from
had
zero?
he grew that from scratch because he had been operating that one for like 12 years or so.
Okay. Yeah, so he had a great relationship with eBay to get these pallets somehow. Yeah,
Correct. Yeah,
yeah,
and then unfortunately, the deal it didn't. I couldn't make it work. I really, really couldn't make it work. But during that exchange, I got a lot of confidence because this guy that had purchased and sold multiple other businesses, run $100 million company, told me, "Huh, you sound like you know what you're talking about. You clearly know what you're talking about." And I was like, in the back of my mind, I was like, this is, and I remember telling him something like, yeah, this is not my first rodeo. And I was like, yeah, this is actually my first rodeo. Because I had never done this before. I had never spoken
it's
to
like
anyone.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah. So I continue with the whole MicroAcquire thing, just, chatting with people. And just like you mentioned, most businesses are very unviable. They're either super expensive or they're not even a business. There's really nothing to cash flow there. But
yeah,
that
yeah. It's
also
there's
built
not
my
a real business.
confidence.
Let me ask you
Yeah,
about the capital raising. You go, oh, okay, I got to go raise $3 million. So what did you do? I mean, do you know how to raise capital? I mean, like I'm not asking a dumb question because raising capital is
yeah,
hard. So
it
what
is
did you
very hard.
do? What did you experience?
Yeah, so good thing is that I was in a fraternity when I was in college, and one of my buddies, he was
Yeah,
the
which one?
VP
Which fraternity?
in Phi Gamma Delta, PG.
Yeah, we have the
And
PG. There's a U of A and the PGs. Yeah.
really, and one of my brothers at the time, he been in college for about 7 years now. And he ended up becoming the VP of a company, one of the largest lending companies in the US. So I just texted him like, "Hey, dude, I have this deal on my pipeline. What are the chances of me getting approved for an SBA loan on this?" And we tried, we really, really tried, but it all came down to he told me like, dude, I love you, but you just don't look good on paper. Like you don't have any savings. Like you're trying to acquire a logistics company. I understand that you have a ton of experience in e-commerce, but if you're positioned as a logistics company, you don't have experience running a logistics business. It doesn't look good for anyone to give you $6 million just like that.
Yeah, yeah. So it was your, let's see, SBA just determined it was too much of a risk with your balance sheet and lack of experience in the specific industry, even though
Correct.
it's
Yeah.
e-commerce. Yeah. How
Exactly.
much?
Yeah.
So when this guy, let me go back to that. So when this guy sold these pallets, was he selling them on Amazon, or where was he selling back on eBay, or what was he doing?
Yeah,
Where
he
was
will
he making
repost them
money?
back on eBay because
Yeah.
eBay wouldn't be able to post them, so they would just upload the
So he
truck
sold it
to
off,
him.
and
He
it
would
goes
just
under
get.
another. Oh, it goes off, and
Yeah,
then. So what happened to that? Did he sell it off to somebody else?
I have no idea because it's been 2 years since then. I have no idea, but I do know that the listing is not on MicroAcquire anymore.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. I want to keep you back. So let's go back to your story here. Then you that was kind of getting hit in the wall, spending a lot of time running yourself right into a brick wall and not getting anywhere. And then you did what?
And then I had the idea that I deal with a bunch of business owners all the time at the agency, and there was this one client that would just keep crushing it, like the money just printed money,
So
like
every
that
time you
is
put $1 in, he'd get like $5 back. Yeah.
minimum. And so that was that in the marketing advertising space, there's the concept of channel on like channel demand, like outsized demand, and that was that company. There was just so much demand for those products that scaling that company was relatively easy.
What kind of what products was it?
It was online courses.
Oh my God, really? Yeah.
Yeah, in a
So
very niche
what
space
online
that
courses sell like that? What kind of courses sell so great? Yeah.
those are the things that because of NDAs and paperwork,
You're under
I
an
cannot
NDA still.
disclose.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. All right. Yeah.
And you'll know exactly why. But it was a tremendous company, and the year after year after year just kept growing. Like when we got a hold of that company, when they became a client, they had made 700 grand the first year, and that was like not even
First year,
trying.
0 to 700 grand.
Correct, correct.
Okay,
That's
so
how much
that's
demand there
actually
was.
in the course business. That's a home run, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
100%. So then we come in the second year, I think we landed at 3 million. And then the year after that, I
How
think we
much did
landed
you
at
have to spend, or how much did he spend to get to that 3 million?
not that much, not that
No.
much. No, it
What would you
was,
say? It's like I spent $1 and I turned it into 3 million. That's 3x from the 700 to.
if we,
Oh, that's like
because that's the thing. He was outstanding at actually running the company, like understanding how do I get eyeballs on my products. So the SEO, the organic traffic, when someone puts on Google, he had a ton of that. He would release a bunch of blog posts that would rank very high on Google. So 50% of all sales would just come automatically. Like every
this
single
guy
month will just,
you're mentioning. I don't know who it is, but he's done this before, hasn't he? He
according to
sounds
him, he
like
has
he's
done.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, he
But
hasn't.
he in terms like he owned multiple businesses, but online true 100% online business. This was the first one. The
Oh,
thing
okay.
is that it we're in the marketing space, which is super saturated. When you go into a space in which there's no one really doing marketing, and you're the one that says the complete opposite thing that everyone expects you to say, which attracts a lot of people, that's a recipe for success. So that's basically just putting the premise here that it's like you going to the real estate market and then selling and assuming that there was no marketing done in the real estate market. It was that it was just the perfect storm at the perfect time with the perfect message with the perfect product that just brewed this company that it was very
Kind of a,
simple.
would you say blue ocean kind of deal? Yeah.
Exactly. That was pure blue ocean. That was pure blue ocean. And in if we're talking about like numbers, it was like the revenue, the monthly revenue, the percentage of ad spend will be like 10 to 20%.
Wow. Normally it's
Yeah.
what, 30 to 40%, right?
Normally we've seen it up to 40s, 50s, 60s, depending on the company. Specifically in e-commerce,
So yeah, it's a
e-commerce
course
is
business,
very
so you know
expensive.
it has a great gross margin on it. Yeah. So the
Exactly,
profit just went in
exactly.
the back bottom line.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were no hard goods, there were no shipping costs. I mean, there was the transaction fees on Stripe, but
Yeah.
that
So
was that
how
was
did
as
that
much.
proceed? You had this conversation with this, and you're doing wonders, knocking it out of the park on the guy, and what did you ask him?
I asked him, hey, the question that they tell you to ask, ever thought about selling your business? Just like that, like, hey, have you ever thought about selling your business? And he sat on it, and coincidentally, it's like sometimes, and I've heard this lately, which is really good, and I want to say this because I've really said that I've heard this from very successful people a lot lately, in which I can attest that it was the same thing to me. Luckily, out of pure luck, he had a life event happening that said, "Hey, I've been thinking about selling the business. I want to do it. Can you guys help?"
You
I'm
mean
like,
like a life
sure.
event, divorce or death or something, a
Yeah,
movie?
something along
Yeah.
those lines. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was a live event, and he said, "Yeah, I'm motivated." I'm like, "Sure." So I sent him a very long email with everything that I had learned. That like, here's the M&A process, because in Epic we learned how to acquire companies, but doing the opposite is selling a company. So it's just like, hey, I have a ton of knowledge on how to do this. I just need to think in reverse, and then we'll end up in the same outcome. And the same thing, like the confidence and the knowledge. Like I could walk into any room and everyone will think like, hey, I have at least 10 acquisitions under my belt.
Yeah.
And you know, that was not
But you
necessarily the
didn't kind of
case.
like a fake it till you make it kind of thing.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It something that I've always believed in, which is like one of my mantras. There's nothing in the world that you cannot do with an absurd amount of confidence. So I've always taken action based on that belief. So if I believe that I'm willing to help someone and I believe in myself that I can execute and do good for everyone, then by default, at some point I'm gonna hit a lucky stride and
Yeah,
I'm
that's
gonna
gonna
get
make a
outsized
great.
returns.
That's gonna make a great YouTube short, Camilo. It's like there's nothing you can't do without an absurd amount of confidence. I love that. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
Correct. And that's basically what happened. I had the knowledge, he had the business, he was, the number one key is always, do you have a motivated seller?
yeah.
This was a motivated seller. So at that point, we started in, okay, what do I need to do? So he agreed for me to become his advisor. How can I be the best advisor? Because, you hear all of the myths in the industry. Okay, brokers are very inefficient, or brokers only care about their fees. Brokers are just very inept and they get in their own way. So I always had those things in mind that it was, and I knew it's not about me. Like it's never about me, and I'm doing this because I truly believe that I can help this company get sold. And so I will never put my needs above the fact that I compromise with someone to help them exit their company at the highest valuation possible. My goal was always, I'm going to sell this business for the highest value possible. And I told this to the seller because over time I had the chance, because the business was doing so well, to increase the value of the company multiple times. And I will go back and I will say, hey, the only reason why I want to do this, two things. One, because I know we can, because I know what the profits are and I know what the multiple for a business like this goes. Two, because I took the business from 8 million valuation to almost 30 million valuation. And I don't, and two, my main motivation is because it's a lot cooler for me to say that I sold a company for 8 figures than for me to say that I sold it for 7 figures. So if you agree with that, if you're open to the idea of potentially losing buyers because we're increasing the price and you're willing to stand behind me, and I can every day, any day of the week, I can validate this price. If you're okay with me doing that, then let's go. I promise you we're gonna sell this company. Just have faith that we can do
So
it.
you thought it was worth between 8 and 13 million? Is that what you told him?
uh no, no, no. So when we started conversations. He said, "Hey, I want six. If I can get six, I'll be happy." And I'm okay. We can 100% do that. Then I listed it for six, and I asked for all the documentation.
Let,
Can you
let
send
me
me your
let
balance
me ask
sheet?
you a question before I got clear. Is this was this business dependent upon his personality type? Because a lot of courses are like it'd be difficult. No, it wouldn't be difficult to sell a Tony Robbins because he's got his image there. But if it was a smaller guy, nobody knows him, but it's all about what's inside this person's head, it's difficult to sell that course business.
The thing that at that point there were more than 20 courses that had been released, and
He's got
there
20
were
courses in, a short, like what, a year, 2 years, or what was it?
2 years. Yeah, 2 years. Almost
20
every
courses in
every
2 years. So he's like, just make more offers.
Exactly. Yeah, it wasn't a one course that just went
He's
skyrocket.
like,
Like
and he
it
kept
was just
pushing in, just putting money behind it. He was just like, you know what? I'm going to resell another. Let's see if this one works. Let's go do another course.
exactly, exactly. So at that
That's your
point, you
that's your
can see.
ascension program right there, man.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So at that point, he said that he wanted six. And to answer your question, like the dependability of the price in his image, for example, since we were managing the marketing, we knew like that we could have, and we had very strong arguments that is not dependent on his image. because the actual ad units don't include a picture of his face. There's actually nothing that includes a picture of his face. It's only the voice. So, it goes back to like, how persuasive can I be on the argument that, hey, if we're running ads with his face, if his face was shown in the video, if you could go to the website and see his face anywhere, then there's an argument to say that is dependent on him. But it was the opposite. The
Yeah.
images
Did he
the
intentionally do
images
that?
didn't have any. I'm not sure. It is yes and no. I'm gonna go with a yes and no. Because one of the things is that
Well,
he
you're half
just,
right.
yeah, he just didn't want to be in front of the camera, right?
Yeah.
He just didn't. He wanted to be very private about things, so it worked out at the end of the day.
Yeah. We're looking at the postmortem. Yes, that worked out. Yeah.
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 So when we started, he said, "Hey, I want six." Then when he said that, about a week or two later, he sent me, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statements. I looked at everything. I did research in the market. I'm like, we've been really crushing it. Let's list it for 8.1. So that was the price that we went to market with.
Yeah. When
We
you
got
say list it and go to market, where are you going to market at? Are you going to put this by sell and what?
we went back full circle. I went back to MicroAcquire.
Oh, you went back for MicroAcquire. That's cool. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So listed it
Now
there.
they don't take any
Um,
commissions on that, right? You just post. You could post for free and something, or what
right
was?
now,
Yeah.
right now, there's no commissions. I know pretty soon they're gonna start charging. I think the number they're gonna throw around is like 4%
Yeah.
commission.
He hired some broker dealers. Yeah.
hmm Yeah. So we listed it. We got a ton of attention, and you know how small the world is because we got a ton of attention, but based on the nature of the business, I remember, I worked on a very similar account. So I, I, I had another agency like 3 4 years ago, and I sold my portion of that agency. And while I was at that agency, I serviced a company in almost the same exact space, almost the same exact space. And I have really great relationships with my clients. So when I realized, okay, we're going to sell this for 8.1, I remember that when I was at the other agency, the account that we had that was in a very similar space, we stopped servicing it because the company got acquired. So I pulled out my phone and I'm like, hey, I called my old client like, hey, um, how's it going? Do you remember how we worked together? So and so. I remember that your company got acquired when we were working together. I have a company in a very parallel space, like it, that I'm very confident that whoever acquired you can also acquire this one. Would you be willing to make an introduction? And he said, yeah, just send me information. Um, can I get some sort of commission for making the introduction? I'm like,
Yeah. What did you
absolutely, that's
offer?
complete.
Yeah.
We negotiated 1% of the deal.
Okay. All right.
So he made the introduction. We started having these conversations,
Hold on,
and
before you go on this, let me ask you about. It's still on MicroAcquire. If you're fielding these calls, are you getting any qualified buyers? Or are you getting, hey, I'll give you no money down kind of deals, or what kind of calls were you getting from MicroAcquire interest?
um, so the process that I created, mind you, remember this is my first time doing this, but I've also done a ton of lead generation in the
Yeah,
past,
yeah,
so
you
I
put them through a
knew that.
qualification process, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So my process was, okay, I'm gonna put a very marketing driven description of MicroAcquire. Like the headline, it was extremely important for me. So I put something along the lines of uh like something, it was a percentage, like it was something business for sale in the education space with X percentage margins. And I knew I was gonna get a ton of hits. It was like the perfect, like if you're looking for a
I'm
cash
sorry, what
flowing
industry? I
business,
missed that. I got to go back and record. What
um,
what industry
uh,
did you say?
online education.
Oh, okay, online education.
Yeah, so like I knew it was just like I just need to reel them in. I just need to reel them in. And the way that I set up the MicroAcquire thing is that they had to apply for me to be able to send them any sort of information. So I was able to actually vet them and go on their profiles and see, okay, do they have money or do they have money? Because I need to sell this, and I'm not gonna take any big people from this, unfortunately, because I'm pretty sure that my client is not gonna want that.
You can buy a company with Epic, but you don't sell a company Epic. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So So once I saw a couple of qualified people, I will approve them. I will send them a link. I had a script that was something along the lines of like, "Hey, thank you for your interest. If you want to get access to this, just click here to sign the NDA." They will sign the NDA. I will send them a professional presentation that I designed. It was like a 14-page presentation, a Google Doc with everything, a slideshow that I designed. I will send it to them. On the last slide, if you're interested in continuing the conversation, click here to book a call with me. I will get calls booked on my calendar. I will vet them. We'll have a conversation. And if I felt good about them, then I will loop in the seller on the conversation. And that's when I will start doing the introductions and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
So
I
what kind of
did.
questions do you ask them to qualify to see if they had 4 million bucks, at least 50% down? How did you say?
Um,
How did you find that out?
it was mainly on their LinkedIn profiles. Like I wanted to know who am I speaking with. So we'll go on their LinkedIn profiles. I got a most of the hits that I got were from PE firm, from private equity firm, or
Oh,
just
is that right?
fund yeah, or just funds that had just gotten started and they're looking for investments. Like there was this one guy that I spoke to, like, yeah, we just raised $30 million and we're looking companies to
Is
acquire,
that
and this
Michael
seems to be
Girdle?
no, no.
No, no,
I've,
yeah.
I've heard of that name. I've heard of that name, but
Yeah, he just
um,
raised $30 million for a fund.
yeah. So yeah, actually, I was quite surprised, and I was quite pleasantly surprised because I'm a MicroAcquire, so I didn't really know what to expect in MicroAcquire, but there's some heavy hitters in there.
So PE funds are kind of hanging out, trolling over on MicroAcquire. Yeah.
Yeah, they are, and they, in my experience, out of everyone that I spoke to, they are the best buyers, absolutely the best buyers. They have the cash readily available. They don't need to go get financing. They've done this multiple times, so you're also speaking to someone that is very sophisticated, but they also know how to negotiate, and they respect and understand when you negotiate back and you push with them, and then you hit them with the famous phrase, "Have you heard of the law of price and terms?" and things like that. And we ended up selling the company to a PE firm on outstanding terms. It was a very, very, very happy ending for everyone involved.
Yeah. So at any point, did you list the price where they anchored on that price?
I don't remember. I don't remember if I actually list. Yeah, I believe we had to have listed on MicroAcquire, but remember the guy that I told you that it was my friend that
Yeah,
I
you got to
called
give,
the
yeah,
old
you got like,
client.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
They they they're PE firm, and something that I learned about PE firms. If you can bring them, it's not about the company, it's about the deal. If you can structure a really, really good deal, you can almost ask for anything and everything as long as it's a good deal and you understand what they want. I'm bringing them a highly profitable business that just prints cash in their space. I knew I had a lot of wiggle room, and I got a really good relationship with the M&A manager. Like we just completely hit it off. So that's something that even the lawyers mentioned, like during one of the calls. They're like, "You have a really good They really, really like you." And I'm like, "Yeah, we know how to negotiate very well." It's crazy to say because this is something also that I learned. It's a lot easier. It's so much easier to sell a company for $10 million than it is to sell a company for $1 million. For $1 million, it's pulling teeth. The pool of buyers is completely, completely different. For 10 million and up, it is simple. It is very
Yeah,
simple.
yeah. Capital is actually cheaper at lower middle market. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So we actually, we had such great relationship, and they were aware that we had taken the price from 8 to almost 13 million, and they, you know, the whole thing that I remember, like a phrase that they told me, if you can show me that the numbers are what you say you are in terms of EBITDA, it's a done deal. It's a done deal. I'm like, dude,
Is
here's
it
the
done
income
deal
statement,
to
here's the
what? We'll
balance
buy
sheet.
it, or we'll buy it at the
Yeah,
13 million. Yeah.
yeah, we'll buy it at the ask price.
Okay. Um, Let me. A lot of private equity firms, some are pretty small, and they're not taking over management of the business. Who's coming over to run the company? Is he coming with it, the seller, or are you and your team coming over with the company too?
Yeah, we still kept our contract. The seller's going to stay running the company for 12 months.
12
And
months.
after that, yeah, because it's a fairly large P firm. They had teams on top of teams on top of teams. So they only need the transitional period.
Oh, okay. So you prove that it is making what you say it's making, and then what?
Correct.
Well, what would happen here with this? Phone call or email? Okay, we'll give you that price. What did that look like?
Yeah, it was just basically that, and like, hey, this is what's happening. We because the things that when we listed for 8 million, that was around August, right? And then we're talking to buyers, talking to a lot of people, due diligence process, getting LOIs. Then Black Friday happened, Christmas happened, and we crushed it. We absolutely, absolutely crushed it. So that's when I went, hey, I asked the seller, like, hey, can you send me the latest financials for the company? Because that was back in August. Uh, we're still in negotiation with multiple parties, but I know we mega crushed it for Black Friday. So I have a very strong feeling that we should actually increase the price. And yeah, he sent me the finances, and we had, because it was almost everything is profit in the business, because
Yeah, it
it's
should be
online
90%
course.
profit plus. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we
Well,
were
hold on.
able,
Let me rewind just a tiny bit. What did you ask for an M&A advisor? What would you ask for a commission? Like 10% or
10%.
10%? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And yeah, and that's the thing. There and Now at this point, we've done this multiple times with other companies, and we always get pushback from the seller, which is completely understandable. You're always trying to get the best deal possible. The thing about us and our approach to M&A is that we can almost guarantee that the company is going to sell for way
Well,
more
hang on
than they
one second. When you
wanted.
say you got pushback from the seller, was he originally asked for 6 million? Now he's pushing back like, oh, let's see where we can get more. You know?
No, no, no. In terms of the commission, of the sales commission.
Okay, okay, okay. All right.
Yeah, because I don't know, and I've dealt with this my whole life. Even this company that we're in the process of selling, 25 million. It's like when you tell them that they're gonna have to pay us 2.5 million, they're like, "What do you mean that I have to pay you 2.5 million for a couple of months worth of work?" Because they don't see it that way. They don't see the value. They don't understand the process because they've never done this before. And the thing is that we've been very lucky that we are relationship driven. So we have very strong ties with people that have a lot of money. Now, not at this stage in the space,
It's better to
that we
have
can.
buyers ready to go with money, isn't it? And sell a
Yeah,
product
exactly.
to those buyers with money. So much better. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So at that point, it's like, and usually by the time we get them, they had already dealt with a broker, they had already tried marketplaces and they were very unsuccessful, or they got very low ball offers. So here we come actually raising the price, because we're the ones that most of the time set the price for sale. Here, the ones that are raising the price, doing all of the negotiation, asking the seller, what is it that you want? This is what a potential deal structure looks like. If this looks okay to you, we can get you this. We just need to understand what is that you want. We can get you most things. We cannot get you everything, but we can get you at least 80% of the things that you want.
Yeah. So let's go back to these. So you crushed it in December. You got the new financial report cards through the private equity group. And what? I mean, how long did it take them to get back and say, okay, we'll do the deal?
24 hours.
24 hours. Well, that's
Yeah,
what
because
happens when you crush it, right?
yeah, 24 hours. It was like, if you can show me, I was like, here's all the documents, had the data room ready. He's like, here's everything that you need to know. And yeah, we jumped on a couple of calls, and within 60 days, we had closed the deal.
And 60 days close the deal. And how that was, they had an asset purchase agreement in place, and
Correct.
how it didn't take very long for his attorneys to go over it. And what was it look like? Hey, we'll give you 50% down, or was it 60%? You need to keep 30% because it's a private equity firm.
Actually, so we had negotiated with other parties during this time, right? And they were aware that we had negotiated with other parties. Since I knew what the seller was willing to do, I had a lot more power for negotiation. And I knew that one of the offers that we had gotten, one of the LOIs, it was that he was going to keep a percentage of equity in the company. So, okay, if he's willing to do that, I'm talking to a PE firm. Will they be open for, instead of a percentage of equity on the company, a percentage of equity in the PE firm, which is more powerful than the company itself? And they
Yeah, they
agreed to
usually
that.
do that in the negotiations. It's a rollover, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you, this is the Adam Coffey that he said, we could go buy an HVA firm for $25 million and we only buy 60% of it. But when we sell the portfolio to a larger private equity firm, that original seller will make more on the second bite of the apple than he will the first one.
Yeah, correct. And that was the motivation, and that's the way that we presented to him. Like, hey, we can actually get you a second exit.
He's probably gonna make more. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Like, the company is on an outstanding financial position. Like, we also knew, because I'm learning a lot of things. The quality of the buyer matters more than the actual purchase price or the terms of the deal. Why do I say? Because then I'm pretty sure that people are thinking, well, if they have the money, doesn't that make them a qualified buyer? Not necessarily, because if they drive the business to the ground, then no one gets a second exit. And yes, we could have walked away with the money, but that's ultimately every owner that has a successful company. They want their company to be as successful in the future as possible without them. So with this buyer, we knew that, okay, yeah, we took it to 6 million. They're probably going to take it to like 20, 30, 50 million easily in a couple of years. So,
Yeah.
okay,
And you're still under contract to do that, right?
yeah, they kept our contract. So yeah, besides the payment, we still have the contract at the agency to service them.
Yeah. So how long did it take to get your check deposited from the private equity firm and your cut?
The moment that the deal closed, like that we jumped on the call with all the lawyers, we signed the contracts and everything, I think like that happened at 9:30 a.m. By 7 p.m. I was a millionaire.
Yeah. So was this with your partners too, or was this separate from your partners in the sell?
They also got cuts. They also got cuts, but since I was the one leading this, I got the majority of the pie.
Yeah. So what did you think? I mean, what did you feel when you got that deposit?
It meant Happiness at the moment, not
Uh,
necessarily. I mean, the deposit helps, but it's the fact that, because mind you, my partners actually didn't believe that we could do this. They actually didn't believe that we could sell a company. And it was the thing that, like, in my mind, it's like I got rewarded for having an absurd amount of belief in myself. So it
absurd,
was,
absurd amount of confidence.
yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
it was one of those things that I was happy about it, about the accomplishment. The next day, or the next day, like once I woke up, like life felt a little different. There was a breath of fresh air, and yeah, by the second day, I was like, shit. Now now I have to figure out what I'm gonna do with this money.
Yeah, yeah. So what did that teach you? I mean, did you just say, you know what, we're changing our business plan? We're not a marketing agency anymore. We're a marketing agency that goes by our clients or helps them sell our clients to private equity firms.
Yeah, because right now we call it a full life cycle agency that we can help you grow as much as you want, and once you're ready to sell, we can also help you sell. So we've been also helping multiple clients do that ever since.
Yeah, yeah. Do you ever think about taking a bigger equity position in the sellers versus just a broker commission?
Uh, that's the thing. It's such an interesting to me a thing to me that technically me taking a 10% equity in the company is the same thing as taking a 10% sale in the company. It's a lot easier for me to ask for a 10% commission on the sale than to ask for 10% equity. The math is the same, but psychologically for the seller is very different, very, very, very different. Because we've tried it in the life of the agency. We've gone to multiple people before this whole Epic thing. Is like, okay, we'll discount our rates, and the difference is going to go into buying equity into the company. We've always got a nose. We've always got a nose. But when we go and say, hey, we'll sell your company for a 10% commission, okay. I mean, we may get pushback, that sounds like a lot, and so on and so forth. But we can usually overcome those
Yeah,
things.
you haven't earned it yet in their eyes. I mean, but if you make this transaction happen, you'll get a piece of it because of the transaction you created. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. Have you ever seen that movie Air with about Michael Jordan? I mean,
No.
it's pretty good because back when he signed his contract with Nike, it was unheard of for any celebrity to take a percentage of the revenues. But now that throws off, according to him, to this movie, $400 million to Michael Jordan every year.
I did see a clip the other day somewhere on TikTok that it was a famous NBA player that said, "Hey, Nike offered me a deal and they were gonna pay me X, but Michael Jordan told me, hey, dude, only take half the cash and ask for the other half, or ask for a percentage
Yeah.
in equity in the company." And the guy said, like, that made me 10X what I would have gotten back
The
then.
reason I'm asking you that is because you took them from 700,000 to $6 million in revenue, and it was only because of you, the celebrity, were able to do that. Now it's his product, but the Bulls were there; they were already there. The team was there, but it was a perennial loser until Michael Jordan came along. He's the one that took him to 6 championships, and then Nike and what he did. So it's a good movie. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it
so
was,
what?
it's go for it, go for it.
Yeah. So what's the plan now? Are you just cultivating these types of clients to be able to sell them? And are you finding them, or do you think this is kind of a one-off? Like, wow, this is once in a lifetime deal, or do you think it's going to come around every month or a couple times a year?
Yeah, every so often, because something else that we learned about PE firms, there's certain PE firms that they acquire companies in multiple industries. Like there's PE firms that we talk to that acquire firms in 5 different industries. And if we know what those targets are, then that's 5 times the opportunities to go come back to them and then just sell them a company.
Yeah. So this is interesting because I have a friend in Canada that does this. He works with about 20 private equity firms. Ask him what's on their menu, and then goes out and finds those companies, he'll ask them, he'll start that relationship, but then he'll also get himself in front of them by writing content in their trade publications to stay on top of mind. And when they're ready to go, he goes, yeah, I got a buyer for you. He's a private equity buyer, and it happens in 60 to 90 days.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, that is brilliant. Yeah, so that's the next plan that we have. Like, now that we have this like taste of heaven, so to say, now we know we can come back. It's gonna be easier. We know how they negotiate. They know how we negotiate. We know how to structure deals. So it becomes easier as we go. The number one thing, the number one issue has always been the seller. And you're probably aware of this as well. 90% of the chances of why a company doesn't sell is probably because of a very unreasonable seller. So that's the hurdle that we always have to overcome. If we're able to overcome that hurdle, then it's smooth sailing. Almost, but it is.
Well, you got one in your pocket now. Pretty big successful deal. Right.
Yeah.
Camilo, thanks so much for sharing your story on this. This is brilliant. Love it.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Yeah, I appreciate the invitation. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
I hope this video has inspired you. If you need help buying your first $1 million business, make sure to visit me at dealflowsystem.net. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe down below. Comment on it, share it, tell everyone about it. And thanks for watching.